podcast live. We generally record it and then publish it maybe a day later or the same day. But just felt like going live today. So this is us with our episode of Fullback, which is the weekly Barca podcast that we do about all things Barca. We pick up maybe two or three stories that we talk about. So yeah, that's what we're going to do right now. And with me, I have Tom. Tom, welcome in.
Thank you, Dev. Yeah, this is a bit of an impromptu live, but we do enjoy these lives, guys, because we get to talk to you guys, we get to get your questions and answer them, and just have a more, let's say, a relaxed session, because this is just where we chat. We don't really necessarily go into all the in-depth stuff and all the serious analytical and cold hard analysis and stats and all that stuff. So we do enjoy this, and we hope that you enjoy that as well. And yeah, we have lot of topics this week again, because Barca are never quiet, Barca never sleep. We did have a great match in the Copa del Rey, Dev. I think that's where we can actually start and see where it takes us. But there are lots more topics. Vitor Roque, of course, has left us. He is back in Brazil. We do have some things on Flick's tactics that we would like to share with you guys and see what you think, how you think Flick should adjust, because he has been adjusting a little bit, but not in all areas. In some areas might need some adjustment if we are to actually take a step forward and improve again, and we will have to improve a bit in some areas. So Dev, where would you like to start? I think Atletico Madrid is a good place to kind of kick things off. So where do we go from there and see where it takes us?
Oh yeah. Athletic game was the real humdinger. So yeah, I mean you can't ask for a better game as a neutral. Possibly not a great ending for Barca fans or Athletic fans who would have thought that after 6 minutes, they were 2-0 up, so they would be thinking that this is in the bag. But that was a great game and very reflective of this flick and this Barca that we have.
Mhm.
The scoreline, what happened at the end, and some of the recurring things that we have seen with the team. The
Yeah.
ability to fight back. That is great because generally a Barca team which is 2-0 down in the 6 minute, you won't expect them to come back, but they did. And not just they did, they dominated the rest of the game. But then, as has been many times, at the end, we again conceded goals against Atleti in the same way that we had done the last time. So, uh, kind of, it has happened more than once, and there's a
Yeah.
reason for that. People will say it was Pedri's substitution or Flick didn't get his subs right. Maybe there is some truth to it, but I think it's not just one thing. There are many things. So let's shed light on some of that, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, partly the subs, maybe, yeah. But when you have a team like Barca, a team that has players of the highest quality, I mean, those subs, even if you make subs, even if the drop off in quality is there, it is noticeable, it is real. We shouldn't ignore it. It shouldn't be so big that you actually cannot control or initiate a game state that you would like to have, right? So you should be able to replicate your tactic or your intent with both the A team and let's say the B team. So let's call them in that way. So I think in that sense, the drop off is expectable, but at the same time, it was too big, and that did cost us in the end. But okay, let's. I would like to start with the positives a bit because people often say that we are too negative there. So let's see what we can say that was good about Barca. And you mentioned it there, that the mentality to come back, they actually claw back into the game, and I think this Barca has that. On top of just having the pure entertainment factor, which is massive for us fans, especially for us fans. I think they do have the mentality of that we never die. We are Barca, we never die, right? We will fight back and we will come back if we can. And the ability to score goals. I mean, we know how important that is in football, but this Barca can score lots of goals and they can score goals at any given time. And this always gives us that glimmer of hope. Even if we concede goals, at least we know, okay, we can score, or at least we can create chances, because Atletico Madrid was mostly we create a lot, but we don't often score a lot. But this game was, oh wow, it was a fiesta of goals. I mean, it was something that we don't often see, especially between these two teams, because Atletico are who they are. We know all about Simeone and his preferred way of playing, but that to me was the big factor, because I caught myself thinking during the game, a lot of times during the game, okay, I'm actually loving this game. It's not the best game of football because we are conceding as well, and we are on the back foot a lot as well. But I was loving the game, and I think that was missing. That's been missing for a long time. That
Oh, a long
like
time.
for years, I would say, as Barca fans. So just having that is immense. But the thing is, that won't always give you results, right? It will give you entertainment, but Barca would rather take the results than entertainment. That's kind of the where we are different than the club, right? Because we as fans, we value entertainment a lot more than Barca do. Like they need to have results. If all you have is entertainment, if you don't have results, then the club would not be where it is right now, right? So Barca do have the mixture of both things, but they would need the results to follow the entertainment for this to be something that they would entertain for longer, if that makes sense. That's just
No,
how
results are.
I,
You're absolutely
yeah,
right. Like, but I don't think I think fans are also will be wanting results. Like if you can you think about
yeah,
Twitter or X, if Barca keep losing with excellent football, nobody's buy
mhm.
that. But that said, this is you'll have to give it to it that for after years maybe Barca are entertaining and people want to watch them play. It's
Yeah,
a kind of game that will get people back into the stadium. I mean, back in the days like 2017, 2018, 19, I think there were games with Messi also when stadiums were not being filled and so on.
yeah,
That there was a lethargy. There was that. But right now, I think with Flick especially, it's a mix. I think it is philosophy, all the young kids, the PR around the young kids,
yeah.
everything has come together. A renewed sense of hope, for the lack of a better way of putting it, and then people are excited, and that's a good thing because we need it. We need the fans to be excited. We need people like us to be excited, and we are excited. But
Exactly.
um, yes, games like that we need to put into bed without a doubt. Like when you're 4-0 up at 83 minutes, 4-2 up 83 minutes with Atleti, you put that game to bed. All right. And
Mhm.
then if you can't, then that's a problem because, you'll just not win as much as you should win. And the team deserves to win. And if they don't win, all the harmony and everything that we are seeing, that's going to disintegrate over time. So the only
Yeah.
way to keep that engine going is that if they win, they get success, and then they feel more united and whatever. So yeah, but so let's talk about that. I mean, let's talk about the good parts, as you said, and then let's
Yeah.
talk about this recurring thing with Flick of yes, I will hold on to this high line or I will die. So whether it will be 90th minute, I'll be still at 50 meters
Mhm.
from the goal. So what was the yeah? Let's talk about the good.
Okay, the good. I think after the initial shock of going 2-0 down, which is not what we expect. I mean, Atletico went out to play. In the opening, how much was it? 10, 15 minutes. It was all them. We couldn't really string passes together. They were really pressuring us and they were attacking us constantly. And credit to Simeone as well because he did make some changes. He shuffled the park a little bit. Griezmann was on the left, but also on the right to kind of use his left foot on the right side, so it opens different angles to put those passes into the runners. And I think they knew what the formula was meant to be, right? We keep saying that, Dev. And teams who there will come a time when teams will put their chances to bed, and Atletico did exactly that. They had 3 chances in the opening 10 minutes. They scored 2 goals, and that's why we keep saying, okay, this is still a very risky way to play because we give those chances to those teams, and there will come a team that will just put them to bed. And
Yeah,
Atletico did exactly that in those opening 15 minutes, and then after that initial shock, our response was great, right? We
yeah,
really stepped it up. We really sustained pressure. We really kept coming, and they couldn't get out of their half. And the counter pressing was immense, right? So Barca were on every ball. They were hunting every ball like hawks. It was not possible for Atletico to just string passes together and get out of their half. Even with long balls, even with runners, they couldn't do it, right? We were really good at controlling that area and not letting them past the halfway line, which was excellent. I thought that was really, really good. And we had chances to actually score more goals, even more goals, I would say.
right.
Obviously,
Easy.
yeah. Ferran
It could
himself
have
had
been
like
six easily six. That was a
easily
six
six.
game, but
Yeah.
it didn't happen. But the one thing that I wanted to ask is it something that you've seen that the first 15 minutes, do we
Hmm.
kind of tend to sleepwalk a little bit, Dom, just to get our bearings into place? And because we've seen this in not just this match,
Yeah.
a couple of matches
Hmm.
at least, where the first 10 minutes we're kind of like figuring out what we need to do, and then we just kind of like everything falls into place, and we
Hmm.
mostly have played teams of the park this season. But
Hmm.
what's it about those first 15 minutes?
I think the cutoff point is not so much about the minutes, but it's about our success. I think once Barca can smell the blood, taste the blood, that's where they get going. So if the opposition is really putting up a good fight and they're not allowing Barca to get into that mindset of steam, I'm going to steamroll you. then it becomes difficult. But if Barca can actually, if they score goal, let's say they score an early goal, that's it. That's the switch, and that flips, and then Barca go into this mode where they're unstoppable and they just keep on going. But to get to that point is not always that easy. I think that, yes, I agree with that, Dev. I think we do need to somehow warm up, maybe, or we need something, an event. It can be a slight event. It can be a successful attack. It doesn't have to end in a goal, but it can be a good combination play that results in a great chance, and that can be motivation enough for these young players who need something palpable to give them that boost, to give them that push. And once they have that, they have all the quality and all the talent in the world to actually keep going and keep building on top of that. So I feel like we need something to kickstart us. And once that happens, if that happens, we get into our unstoppable mode. But the thing is, not every team will give you this opportunity that easily, right? So that's the thing. Some teams we can just brute force our way into that mindset, and some teams will give you more resistance. And now it's up to those our players, our young players, to find out how can we excel in the face of adversity. I think that's the biggest leap that this team can make. How can we assert our dominance? How can we claw back into a game state that favors us? And we did that with Atletico Madrid because we were in a knockdown for the first 50 minutes, and then we came back, and then we kept on going. That was a big thing. Now we need something to flip that switch. That's the only thing that's currently a little bit of a nuisance for this Barca side, I would say. But it's normal. It's not a big deal because we still flip the switch almost every game. So that's a positive, I would say.
Just a thought to everybody who's listening. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the athletic game. So, guys, like anything that you have, your thoughts on the game or what you feel, good or bad, just drop it. We'll pick up the comment. We'll talk about it. We'll hear your thoughts as well, because that's what this is supposed to be. So don't hesitate.
Yeah.
Whatever. There's no right or wrong. Whatever you feel, drop it out there, and we will pick up those comments and talk about it. So let's talk about what Peter is saying here. He's saying that I think Barca remind me a lot of Liverpool, and he's not the first one. A lot of people have been saying about Barca and Liverpool this season, the similarities of it, with the biggest difference is defending the mid-low block. Yeah, probably. Yeah, you can say that. Sure, but given Flick's philosophy, and then we said we would talk about this, right? What's the midfield for Flick right now in the elite games? Number one. And then I think Ferran got a start. He deserved it. But probably Ferran is still better as coming off the bench than starting in the beginning. So let's talk about midfield and this ability to defend with the choice of defenders that we have, which is Garcia. At this moment, it is Inigo, Kubarsi, and Garcia probably as the first three choices, because Araujo still did not start this game. And maybe this was one of the games where Araujo could have been there. But yeah, thoughts, Tom, on the Liverpool alignment and the mid block.
Yeah, I think there are similarities because we associate Liverpool with that heavy metal football still, even though Klopp is not there anymore. But they still have that mentality. They do have a great coach now as well. That's one other thing. Yeah. He's very. I don't think he's underrated anymore because he's showing his quality, but he is a very, very good coach, right? And Hansi Flick is too. They both coaches that can maximize their players really well, platform them really well. Now we do have slightly different profiles across the board, so that's one difference. And I think defending in the high or low or mid block, yes, I think both teams are kind of known for high pressing. Now, which our high pressing is slightly different because we know what we don't have in that front line, especially, right? We don't have the legs everywhere. We are a team that needs to counter press much more effectively, because if we are stretched out, we struggle a lot. I don't think Liverpool have that issue as much as we do. We have players who are excellent in very localized smaller spaces, and if we can platform that, which we saw against Atletico Madrid, because all that counter pressing occurs on a smaller area. It's not high pressing across half the pitch. It's pressing in smaller localized area across the pitch. So you have little squares across the pitch, and that's where the action happens. It doesn't happen across the whole half. It happens in little pockets here and there. And that's how Barca counter press, and that's how when we are the most effective when we counter press. So I think that's the biggest difference, or that's the game state, or that's the scenario that we want as much as possible. Now every team wants that, because every player, if the player can cover large spaces, he doesn't necessarily want to, because it's very taxing on the body, it's very unsustainable. So every player wants to have smaller spaces to defend. But I think Liverpool may have profiles that are more that can actually, yeah, more suited to more large distance running. I don't know what to call it properly, but we are very hmm, I don't know what we are not really a team that wants to get stretched out too much. I think that's the big difference.
Would
We run a
Cassidy
lot.
be a better fit for a mid block?
Yeah, he would be. I mean, he is again a small space defender. He's very energetic. He's very high energy, right? So very high intensity. But if you stretch him out, he can't keep up, right? So it's in the same as Pedri. Pedri is a very intelligent defender as well. Gavi is high intensity defender, but they're all if you give them too much space to cover, they will all struggle like immensely, right? It's not the way to use them because then they're expending too much energy in the things that off the ball things when you need them on the ball, but a lot more. So that's kind of the thing. Castro is a good defender, high intensity, high energy, but I also wouldn't want him tracking back all the way from the final third to the back to the box and then doing those sprints up and down the pitch, because it's just not a good use for him overall.
Yeah, so I think to your point, Peter, yes, there are definite shades of gegenpressing and heavy metal football
Mm-hmm.
that Jurgen Klopp, made Liverpool famous for. So we are seeing a little. Maybe it's the German school. Maybe who knows?
Yeah, a little bit.
So there are similarities, and we are seeing that. And for sure, I mean, this is such a new team, and this is their first season together. And I think we're still figuring out because if you hear, like I was going through Araujo's interview, and he was saying that we're not used to playing in this style at all. We're still
Mm-hmm.
figuring out like how to maintain the high line, how to spring that offside trap, how to defend in this system, which is so risky. So I think even the players are figuring it out, and I think if Flick gets a couple of seasons, he'll probably understand how his concept of defending is, because right now Barca doesn't have a concept of defending, right? They've got
Mm-hmm.
great ball players on the feet with Kubarsi and Inigo, who can quickly bring the ball from the back, make those
Yeah.
triangles with Kunde and Lamine, and off you go. But I think it'll take a little bit of time for Flick to also figure out how to use it, because I'm sure he's noticing this, that we are
Yeah.
losing games like this, and that it's a defense that really needs to pick up. Like Barca is super entertainment and lots of goals, but we have conceded also like lots and lots of goals, right? So
Yeah. We
I
have
think that there's a challenge there. Okay, let's talk about Guten Tag. Guten Tag. Don't you think about our pressing system is too easy to manipulate, especially with fullbacks having to go up and press up and fullbacks?
Mm-hmm.
It is like, I don't know whether it's easy or difficult, but that's how Flick plays, and that's how he creates space. That's how this Barca creates so much space in those heavy transitions, which allows them to score so many goals, right? And I think that's one of outcomes of this way of playing. Is it easy? Yeah, and we have seen that we have on the counter, on the transition, if our offside trap fails and the opponent are clinical, we can be in trouble. We saw that with Atleti. We could have been very badly in trouble with Real Madrid. We could have been in trouble with Bayern.
Mm-hmm.
We could have been in trouble with Dortmund. The finishing wasn't there, and that's why we didn't. So yeah, that absolutely is possible. But I think that's just how he wants to play, and he probably doesn't think that he has the defenders to defend for his style of playing. He's been
Mm-hmm.
chopping in, moving on, and we keep hearing about Tar here or somebody there. But I think that's what I think. But Dom, what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean it's a real issue. We've been talking about that for a long time, actually, in multiple different situations. And I think yes, it is a problem because our fullbacks need to be very high, need to press very high once our wingers collapse inside. Now we've been talking about that a lot because Lewandowski can press. Our number 10s are very, not all of them can press as well, very high up the pitch and very large distances as well. So that means that Lewandowski and the 10 drop deeper, wingers come inside. That means that fullbacks need to push high up. Now, against Atletico Madrid, you also saw that in action because when the ball was on either of the wings, Barca's far. So if the ball is on the left, then the Barca's far side, so the opposite side, fullback has to go all the way up and push up all the way to the halfway line. And that means that there's space behind. And if you put a diagonal ball across, you can access that area. Now, it's very, very difficult because those fullbacks need to cover two players in most cases, right? They have to cover the opposition fullback and they have the winger behind them. Now, if Barca put someone else on the winger behind, that means that they lose players in other areas of the pitch. It's a domino effect, right? So because the wingers are tucked in, the fullbacks need to push high. Because the fullbacks need to push high, the central midfielders or the center backs need to peel wide to cover their area. So it's a domino effect, and teams can exploit that, absolutely can, because it creates a gap between the center back and the fullback. There's a little gap that you can exploit with diagonal ball. So that's played from one side to the other side. And Atletico did that a couple of times in the opening 15 or 20 minutes, and it was fruitful for them. So that it is a real issue. But what you have to understand that is no system, no structure is flawless. So so every single system has a flaw. There's a way to outplay a 4-3-3, a 4-2-3-1, a 4-4-2. There's always gaps that you can create through either your mechanisms or the flaws of the opposition team. So I think in that sense, there is no right answer. But Barca's biggest weakness in that pressing shape is that they have players who can't press, and then other players have to compensate for that. And the structure needs to compensate for that. So you have to somehow mask that flaw of Lewandowski not being a runner, or I don't know, Dani Olmo not being a runner, or maybe Pedri not being a runner, through the system or through other individuals. But if you do that, you will inevitably lose out somewhere else on the pitch, right? So that's just the drawback, the trade-off that you're willingly accepting by trying to have a player who can't press in your team when you're a team that relies on pressure all the same, right? So it's a tricky situation, but Flick is actually trying to get the most out of this. But it's impossible to have a system without some drawbacks. That's my point.
Yeah, possibly, and he's probably learning, and we'll have to see how it evolves. This is season 1. Hopefully, there'll be a season 2 and 3, and we'll have to see how the system evolves, if at all. Rafiq, seeing a question on Neymar, and we'll come back, but we'll finish the Atleti game before we move on to the other pieces of news that we want to cover. So let's come to the elephant in the room, Dom. 83rd minute, Flick takes up Pedri, obviously, to maybe give him some rest. And, subs come in, Fermin comes in, and we concede, right? We are still at 50 meters. We concede really probably very non-conceivable goals, to put it very lightly, but we concede them. And it's all, again, Alexander Sorloth. It's, again, almost a replica of what happened in the league game last time. Which shows that probably we didn't learn what from that incident and face that again. Who's to let's not do blaming because that's what we go, that his blame or let's not do that. But what's the answer here? What's the answer here? Is it we drop the line, right? Become more defense oriented, protect the score. Right? It doesn't go with Flick's philosophy, probably, but is it what he should think about if he's thinking about silverware and all of that? Given that we don't have all the personnel probably the way he wants them, and that's not going to change anytime soon. Or was it a player mistake? Are they not understanding his system and not being able to defend to it while he holds strict to his principles of the game? Either way, the team is suffering. And there are points that we could have picked up that we have not multiple times this season because of this. So is it worth holding to a philosophy if it is causing this? Or is that the right way? Or did we get the subs wrong completely? And should it have been was this a Casado game to start with, not Frankie, as many people are saying, or a Gavi game because of his intensity? And maybe an Araujo game because of his ability to just muscle in. Right? What's your thought?
Well, I think Frankie de Jong, first of all, had a great game. I think I love Frankie that game, and I don't think that having Casado in there would have changed much. Like in terms of masking our flaws or making us better defensively or something like that. I think Frankie had a great game. Yes, there were moments where he was kind of bypassed easily, but the thing is, this approach obviously it's working somewhat for Barcelona, but you have to read the game state. And Barca have been very shaky in reading the game state or actually adjusting the temperament of the game state to their own suiting, right? And when the Atletico have all the momentum and they're barraging you with attacks, then yes, you have to adjust. You have to adjust to that. And Barca's way of adjusting or calming down the game is not necessarily dropping into a deep block and parking the bus, because we're not really that good at that either. But it's trying to defend with the ball. That's what we always say. Barca were at their best defensively when they were able to defend with the ball and control the game through possession, right? That's how you sniff out all the momentum from the opposition, not by being defensively resolute and parking the bus and not letting any chances through, because we're not geared that way. We're not even coached that way. But we are coached and we have the ability and the profiles to actually defend with the ball. And I think that was the right approach. That should have been the approach, defend with the ball. Now, subs that Flick made, obviously there's a decrease in quality, there's a somewhat switch of profiles as well, but there's no, I don't think that those players that came in, that they're unable to do what we need them to do, right? So I think they should also be able to defend with the ball. Maybe not as well as a Frankie or a Pedri can, but we still have the players who can do that in theory, on paper, based on their technical quality alone. So I think they should have been able to do that. So yes, it was maybe players that coming to the Atletico momentum, the pressure that was really, really high at that moment, but also the approach, needed to be tweaked. It needed to be tweaked, but I wouldn't say park the bus. I would say defend with the ball, try and keep the ball and stabilize the game,
Do we have the
slow down
players
the
for that?
game.
Do we have the players for that, Dom, to defend with the ball?
I think so. Yes, I think so. Even the players that came in, as I was saying, they were not maybe as high quality as a Pedri who came out, but they should still be able to do that, right? So create a rondo, because all the players participate in the similar training sessions, right, or same training sessions. So they should be able to do that, and that should be a part of Flex principle. So it shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be something that Barca should be able to do in their sleep. No matter the players, the quality of players will decrease or increase, but all Barca players need to be able to do that, because that's a core way of our playing. To keep the ball is what we do best, right? That's what we're known for. And in this situation, to keep the ball just for the sake of it, pass for the sake of it, is actually a good thing in that situation. It's not when you're chasing a result, but when you're trying to defend the result and calm down the game, then yes, this is a good approach and needs to be applied. And Barca could not do that for one reason or the other, and they were not really trying to do that. They were still playing into Atletico's pressure, so trying to match that with our own long balls, with our own attacks. And I think at that point, it was just not happening. It was not a viable approach. And I think that is, to your point, Dev, that is one thing that we should be able to control much better if we are to beat teams that are on equal footing with us, right? The teams that can actually create those chances
And put them away.
and then put them away, because those teams are coming, like Liverpool and PSG and even Real Madrid in the latter stage of the Champions League. They will be that team. They will be a
Yeah.
team that will
I mean, if
put
you're
away.
up, you're absolutely right. If you're up like 4 goals against any of these teams in a Champions League, semifinal or quarterfinal,
Yeah.
and you lose it, or you lose the initiative like this, then you got it's just not. There's nothing to say. I mean, you got to fix that problem from that perspective. I would suggest so. So yeah, I think the consensus is that Flick needs to look into it and fix it a little bit, or what are we leaving with?
I think it needs to adjust. Yeah, I think it needs to adjust, because there are certain game states that you have to approach differently, right? You can't really play the same way at the same time, the same stage of the game, and that can hurt you. We saw that it can hurt you. So I would say adjustments are needed. Like we keep saying, Flick is a purist, right? He lives and dies by his principles, so that's true. But at the same time, there can be some adjustments. Even Pep, who is very much a purist, he always adjusts. He always adjusts to his players. He adjusts to the opponent. And I think Flick needs to do a bit of that as well. Now, when you're winning and when everything is good, you can keep on doing what you're doing. But there are situations in which you have to say, okay, now this approach is hurting me more than it's aiding me. And he has to recognize which situations those are and then adjust accordingly. I think that's the main.
So yeah, that's about it. So that was the Atleti game, and there are lots of questions. So let's start taking them. But yeah, a 4-4. We'll be back at the Wanda in about 1 month, and I think all Barca fans feel that they can pull this tie off and go in the finals, and maybe that's possible. But it would be good for Flick to figure out this, because it's the second time that has happened with Atleti. We should have won both the games against them very comfortably. We played them off the park both times.
Yeah.
So hopefully we see some changes, and we will see that over the course of the next month. I'm sure he was very frustrated after conceding those 2 goals. I've never seen him that angry on the sideline. He was really, really upset. So hopefully, we'll see some changes. Okay, let's keep going with the questions, because there are lots, and let's start with the yearly Neymar to Barca one, which happens all the time. But this time it's David Onstein who is saying that that's being discussed. So there are a couple here. So let's talk about Neymar. And while we are at Neymar, let's also talk about Vitor Roque, who went back to Palmeiras, and we saw that play out. There are lots of things to learn from it. One from a financial fair play perspective, one from like how it went down. It didn't really go down that well for anybody, I believe. But let's start with Neymar. So yeah, probably Neymar's. I think he's made it clear that he would like some sort of a return and some sort of a fairy tale kind of a setting. And I think everybody wants to play for this Flick team because this is a great team, and you can
Yeah.
just add a little bit of stardust and you can win silverware. So everybody wants to play for this team. That said, though, I mean, yes, theoretically he has gone back to Santos. He can get back his fitness and he can be amazing, and he can go back into the World Cup squad, and maybe it's all fairy tale, and he comes to Barca and we win something, and it's all great, right? And there's that aspect of it that is possible, and for sure he can pull in people into the new Camp Nou, all of emotion and nostalgia.
Yeah.
But somewhere, like, I feel like it's okay. You can move forward. We don't
Yeah.
need to go back into the past again. Like, this is the new, and these kids are coming up, and you got to work with them, build them up, and take that story forward rather than looking back. But strange things have happened, and stranger things might happen even after this. So, Tom, what's your thought?
Yeah, same, Dev. I think there's a smidge of nostalgia there, and yes, Laporta is saying about all the people that would love to see Neymar, because there are a lot of people that would love to see Neymar back, and it brings back that emotion, and some people are still heartbroken because he left the way he left, but many people cannot move past that as well, right? So it's very difficult. Can we fill the new Camp Nou without Neymar? Probably, I would say yes. But then again, Laporta is thinking about that, but also thinking about his own presidential election that's coming up. So I think in that sense, maybe bringing back Neymar, who will still be a big name, especially for the nostalgia, the emotions, and the money as well, because he would come in on a free, and they say that he would have astronomically low wages and whatnot. I don't know if that's true or not, but yes, I think from that perspective, yes, I can see why Laporta wants him. But
where would he fit in
sportingly,
this team? Let's assume for a for a moment Neymar's back, right?
yeah,
Where does he
exactly.
fit in this team, and where does he play?
Yeah, exactly. That's the sportingly. It doesn't really make that much sense because, okay, let's see what positions could Neymar play. So left winger number 10 are the first two that come to mind. I have seen shouts of Neymar as a false nine. Maybe it could work, but I just don't think Neymar moves the way he used to move anymore, and that position would be a bit difficult. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he comes in and suddenly he flips the switch and he's back to his best. Maybe that happens. Maybe he takes us to glory. I don't know. I would love that to happen, but I just don't see just yet. So a Barca left winger. So he's not a wide, natural left winger anymore. That's not who Neymar is, especially not one who can cover large distances, who can run and latch onto passes from the deep, which our left winger in the current setup, see Rafinha, for example, has to do a lot of, right? So Rafinha is not a natural wide winger either on the left side. He cuts in. He's more of a 10. He's more of a inverted winger sort of profile, but he covers a lot of ground, both on and off the ball. Can Neymar do that? I don't think he can do that in his current form, fitness-wise, mentality-wise, profile-wise. I don't think he fits that. Now, when you move on to the number 10, the number 10s under Flick have been a bit different than what we had imagined before, because now they're mostly moments players who are not that involved in the overall play, right? So see Dani Olmo, see Gavi, see Fermin Lopez, all those players, even Pedri when he played at number 10, what was the main critique of that role for Pedri is he's not touching the ball enough. Now imagine a Neymar who's not touching the ball enough. That's a big issue. That's a deal breaker for Neymar, because his profile is all about high involvement, all about being the main man in possession, because he wants to influence every phase of the game in attack. And Barca's Flick's number 10s lately have not been those kinds of players. Now, there's also a pressing issue because the number 10 has to players as well. Neymar, I don't think he's that player anymore. Now, would Flick tweak the system to accommodate someone like Neymar? Maybe slightly, but again, going back to the initial statement that Flick is a purist, I just don't see him making
Courage,
massive
discipline,
changes.
everything.
Ex-
Neymar and Flick, I just don't see how they
yeah,
match. But stranger things have happened. And I
exactly.
think Nish
So
says Neymar is a 10 and Flick's system would be good at tactically. I think still his version of Neymar is better than any 10 we have. Maybe there is a point in it. And Neymar, just I think yesterday he was in an interview saying that his best, according to him, was
mhm,
2017 when he was in PSG, when he was
mhm,
controlling the game. And he
yeah,
was very happy about that role, right? So obviously that Neymar from the Neymar that was playing in Barcelona was very different in terms of profile. Now,
mhm,
can he be that person? Yeah, probably. He's a great footballer. There's no question about that. Who compensates? Who
yeah,
sits out, right? If Neymar comes in, what happens to that player? Can Neymar do 60 games a season, right? Does he have it in
yeah,
him anymore? So there's so many things to think about that. Then his impact on the dressing room, right? Flick looks like a strict disciplinarian to me. Manages his ship very tight. So what does that do to him? So there are so many questions like that, and we won't know some of these answers because we don't see what happens in training and what have
yeah,
you. Um, I'll be very surprised if it happens. But the rumors keep. There are rumors of Messi returning as well. Every year we have these rumors that come through. Um, how much any of that is possible, given the money that we have, is questionable because we still cannot afford to spend, recklessly here and there. And that brings me to the next point, which is similar, another story from Brazil, which is Vitor Roque going back.
yeah,
It's been happening for a while. We have discussed about this in the past, but finally the transfer seems to be over. The numbers seem okay. Seems like
yeah,
Barca didn't really make a loss. They neither made a profit, but I would think that Barca is very happy that they got him off and saved those the amortization over 8 years that was there. That would help them to renew some players. I think that's in the short run, and it's getting kind of clear that Roque probably isn't ready for European football, whether it be Barca or Betis. It didn't really capture the imagination in that way. But Dom, final thoughts on Roque's leaving?
yeah. It's a sad thing because we all rooted for him, and we all feel that Barca are somewhat to blame in this whole scenario, right? They did not really play this well, did not really make this easy for him, and it was a tough transfer for him, just going to Europe, going to Barca of all teams, which is the biggest pressure cooker of all the teams in world football. So I think that did not help, and I don't think that it was his pure footballing ability. I think it was more of a culture thing. It was more of a adjustment thing. It was more of a mentality thing, because we did see comments like his mentality has changed, his way of looking at life, not just football, has changed in Europe. He has changed as a person, and he's had difficulties adjusting to that new life. And that shows you how difficult it is to get transfers right at the top level, right? You have to take everything into account. It's not just the profile, which is obviously important, not just the ability, which is also important, but it's also how those players will actually accept the environment they are in, and how the environment will accept them as well. And for Roque, it just didn't click. He wasn't given the chance, and his profile wasn't really a prototype Barca striker anyway. But we did highlight that, Dev, in our report. We said, okay, he's not going to play the striker. If he plays, he's not going to play the striker because he's not really there
Ready.
yet. He's not ready for that. So we said, okay, he's gonna be a left winger, and lo and behold, Xavi played him as a winger more than he played him as a striker. And even that didn't help, because I don't know why, because he wasn't getting enough minutes anyway to for us to say, okay, he wasn't good when he played. He was decent when he played. He even scored some goals, but something just prevented him from getting minutes in the first place, which was, it's a shame. It's a shame. I really feel bad for him, but I do hope that he gets his career back on track now in Brazil, and then maybe he's young enough, he can still come back to Europe in a couple of years, maybe, if he
Hopefully
wishes.
things
Yeah,
go well for him. Nobody wants this to happen. It'll be a shock for it'll take time for him to adjust to this, recover from this, get his career back. But hopefully he does it young enough, and probably gets another shot at Europe, and comes back. And that will be the best outcome for everyone. And for now, I think Barca probably dodged a bullet somewhere. And
yeah,
also saved a little bit of FFP, which will probably help them in tying down Inigo Martinez and probably Lamine Yamal, in terms of just pure salary space, and making those renewals happen, which they are very much looking into right now. So hopefully that works out. Um, definitely does not give us enough money to go and buy an Isaac. And there's a question of Isaac, and we will take it. We'll take it for sure. But before that, Omkar, we do take comments from X. We take comments from everywhere. We just go through, where we are in the show and what we're talking about. So, what's the best fullback for Barca? There are many points of view on this. This can be a 1 hour show just on this question alone.
Yeah.
Um, but I think. And I'll let Tom talk. But the reality is that the ones that are very good probably we won't be able to buy right now, and what
Mhm.
we have probably does the job given the situation of the team, right? So that I think realistically, can we buy the elite fullbacks? I doubt we don't. We just don't have the financial ability to do that, even though we are back to 1:1 and what have you. But yeah, we can have a theoretical discourse on who's the best and who can be the best. So Dom, why don't you kick us off?
It's tough because it's not so much of the names. Is what do we want our fullback to be, right? Okay, so we have Kunde at the moment, we have Hilker Ford at the moment, and there's a lot of discourse around both players, right? Okay, Kunde is not really an overlapping fullback, but we need that to unlock Yamal and give him some presence once he inverts, and then the flank is all left empty and there's no one occupying it. I get that. As now, if we're looking for that, then you have to look at players who can be more of a wing back profile, players who can attack the space, who can be more of an attacking presence. But then we also say that Kunde is not a good enough defender either, that he's getting beat a lot, that he's not really closing down his players enough, and so on and so forth. So, and then you look at the players that are linked to Barca consistently, like Kimmich, for example, who would be I don't know if he would be a right back or a pivot. I don't know. Probably a right back if he comes in because he's a free player, right? This summer, and he's apparently Bayern have withdrawn their
Offer.
their offer to Kimmich. So if he comes in, he improves on the distribution that Kunde has, but does he improve on anything else? I don't I don't know.
Again,
So
where does he fit?
yeah,
And
exactly.
for whom does he compensate? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit tough because you have to look what exactly do we want our fullback to look like? Do we want someone who's a great defender and someone who could be a slight presence in attack, though someone like
Who would be a
Fresneda was,
dream
for
fullback?
example, a
Dom, your
dream
dream
fullback.
fullback. Yeah. Money is not a question. Nothing is a question. We can just go and pick them up. Like, who would you put in this team?
Who would I put in this team? Oh, that's a loaded question. Especially for a live session. I don't know. I'm very wary of names like Trent and Kimmich. I'm not fully sold on those of those names. They bring immense quality in one thing, but they then for a team that is very short on good defenders as or elite defenders as is. I'm very wary of those names, so I wouldn't really necessarily go in that direction. Now, I see Balde as the perfect specimen that I would like. I will see that profile. So obviously Alfonso Davies is someone who's very similar, but he's a left back primarily. So someone like that for the right side of the pitch would be ideal. Does that someone exist? Wanderson is a good shout. Nilesh, he is a good shout.
Either way, shout.
Yes, he's a very good shout because he is a bit of both. He is very good defender, but he's also a good on the ball. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I really don't know. This is something that would need scouting, right? I can't
We should do
say
something. We should do a
we
test.
should. Yeah, we.
We should do a video on this. Money no concern. What's the best fullback for Barca? And we'll bring that. We'll build that, and we'll get that video out to you guys for sure. This is why we do it. It's like there's so many content ideas that come, while talking to you guys, and you guys so much, you watch football, you have so many ideas, and sometimes most of the time we learn from all of you. So yeah, that'll be one that we will be looking out. So Omkar, thank you for giving us this idea. We're going to make a video. I hope you like that. Okay, now let's go back into this Kunde question because I found that interesting, which is from Mohammed. And he says, why does Kunde hesitate to close on diagonal balls near the byline by side? Would you put his hesitation down to tactics, or it's just a weakness from him? Now, that's a tough question. Don't really know, but I would say that he's not really a natural right back. Kunde has been he has converted that role to him very well in Barca and is doing phenomenally well. So kudos to him. But historically, he's mostly been a center back. And I think he's also adjusted the role to his to what Barca need right now and to what Flick wants him to do, right? So I think it's a combination of a lot of things that leads that probably has the answer, the real answer to this question, whether that's a weakness, whether it's tactics, and so on. Uh, yes, Flick's tactics are such that when you're playing that higher line, and Kunde is bounding up and down most of the time, or making those connections with Lamine. Um, his timing, right? How he defends and where he defends is very important. So, how he interprets that and how he uses that space is probably also aligned to this answers. But Dom, what's your thought?
I think he does have some good defensive fundamental, like body orientation, foot placement, and all that. I think is good, and he uses the byline well because that's the advantage that fullbacks have. They have to defend mostly one side because if you use the byline as an extra defender, because no one can go past that point, right? You know that there's no one can attack you on that side if the byline is there, so you have to defend one side most. So that helps in those situations. Now, the diagonal balls near the byline. I have to admit I've not really noticed that as an issue. Maybe it is. I have to look into it. However, what I do think is a tactical flaw or weakness is exactly what we discussed. Is that Kunde is often put in a situation that he has to mark two players at the same time, and that might be the reason or the reason he hesitates because he doesn't know should I step up or should I drop deep because I have two players. One is ahead of me, one is behind me. So which one do I prioritize, right? And that is also a tactical decision. And also you need to see and prioritize, right? Is this guy more threat to our team on the ball, or is that guy the bigger threat on the ball? So I have to prioritize and decide who do I mark more, and then commit to that player. But you have to know that the trade-off is still there because if I push forward, that guy behind me will be free, and if you receive the ball, he will have enough space and time. The same happens if I drop deep and let the fullback or defender, whoever it is, ahead of me have more time and space on the ball. So it's about prioritization and about deciding who is the more pressing concern in any given situation, and that means you have to have decision making in a split second often, and it's not easy. So that might be the reason why he hesitates. But as I've said, honestly, I've not really noticed that as much. So I would have to look into it to give you a more detailed answer.
One more idea. Thank you so much. You guys are giving us ideas and ideas to create more content. Okay, let's cut back into Isaac because there's a lot of interest about Isaac, anyways, to Barca. Looks like he gets about 18 million gross in Newcastle. So obviously he'll want a little bit more money than that. And then on top of that, there is the transfer fee, which I think will be about 100 million easy at this moment with the hype that is around him. Question is, so is Isaac a 100 million player? Dom, that's number one. Number two, for Flick's Barca, is that the answer that we are looking for? And if he comes, who goes?
Well, if he comes, he's primarily number 9. He can drift and does drift wide to the left, especially. He does that. So he's a player that can occupy different positions if needs be. But he would primarily be a number 9. So I think Lewandowski is the obvious choice there. Now, of course, you could ship off Ferran, for example, and have Isak and Lewandowski, but I don't think that works. I don't think that works because neither of those would want to be a bench player, primarily a bench, but even a rotational piece. And do Barca have the finances for him? Because apparently he did not accept a very lucrative offer from Saudi Arabia or something. I'm not sure. Something like that. So money, I don't know if he can offer as much money as he would want to. I don't know about that. That's a different topic. But stylistically and tactically and profile-wise, I mean, obviously he has the fundamentals. He has the mentality. He has the technical quality. He has the ball striking. Isak is a very, very good player. Now, is he a 80 to 100 million pounds or euros type of player? I don't know. I don't think there's not many players I would splash that much cash for. I was just gonna say that, especially if you're a team that wants to maybe patch up several positions in the same transfer window. Now, is Leao that kind of a player? Is anyone that kind of a player? It's very difficult. There's only a handful of players who would warrant such price tags. And lately in modern football, there's too many players that demand such money. So it's a tough one. He would fit. I would love him at Barca, but not at any price. Not at any price.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think the associative play that an Isaac will need to thrive on, um, that connectivity, does that
Mhm.
is that very seamless? Can he fit in with the Rafinhas and Lamines of the world? Does that become a problem in the way they play? Um, any thoughts on
Uh,
that?
I think in terms of that, he's much better than Lewandowski is currently in connecting play and being an associative player, even in deeper areas if needs be, in widened areas if needs be. So I think in terms of that, the profile, I think that's not an issue, not as much of an issue. Would there be an adjustment period? Potentially, yeah. I mean, he's been playing away from Spain. He's been playing in the Premier League for a bit. Maybe that has changed the way his profile is currently developing, or just the curve in which he's going. But I think he has the technical fundamentals to be the associative player that Barca would need him to be. So no, in that sense, I don't see a big issue there. At least not now.
And yeah, to a point, as Nish says, that Lever has to leave regardless of.
Mm,
Yeah, Lever will leave. Maybe another season and then he's gone. It's true, but it's also true that the contribution he has made is massive. And yes, age
yeah.
is catching up, and yes, we are seeing the impact of that in many games, and that is true. So that's undeniable. So to a point, you're right. But is it Isak? Is it somebody else? That's the question. And I think we'll get to know. But I think there are already discussions around, tracking some of these players and looking into
Yeah.
what fits and what doesn't fit. So I think there's a lot of. I think we'll hear this name a lot in the coming few years
Well, yeah.
for when it comes to transfers and Barca, because of the super clubs, so as to say. I think most of them are kind of like Madrid is set. Madrid is not changing anytime soon. They're like stacked, right? So they're not changing. I think Bayern probably there's a chance in Bayern City. I don't know. They're in restructure mode. Liverpool, I think after Salah leaves, they will want somebody, and Salah will leave. So I think there are musical chairs that will
Mm,
happen from that perspective. Only there are that many elite forwards or nines, and then there are these clubs who need nines as well. So it'll be interesting to see what that causes prices and everything else to become, and then possibly we'll get to know whether it's an Isaac or somebody else who's coming to Barca. But name to watch out, and we definitely need somebody like him to lead that nine position as Dom's talking about. Okay, so let's talk about let's take a few more and then maybe we now almost an hour. Wow.
yeah. Almost an hour. Yeah. Yeah.
Barca threw away the game against Atleti. We talked a lot about Atleti because of Hansi Flick's childish. Yeah, we talked about this. Tefila's true. You don't
Yeah.
probably bring Fermin and Eric, but that's what he believed in because he probably believes in the ability to hold the ball, play the ball, rather than the brute force or physical ability that Araujo has, which many people think might have worked in this particular case. Um, so yeah, Flick got his substitutions wrong, and there are many games Flick has got his right, and we have won, and we have talked about it a lot. I think this season specifically, I would say 80% of Flick's substitutions have already actually worked in our favor, and has always turned the game around. So
Yeah.
probably he got it wrong in one match. Hopefully he learns from it, and then hopefully the wonder we actually get the win that we need and move to the finals. All right. Okay, was there anything else, Dom, we wanted to talk about? We talked about Vitor, we talked about Neymar, Atleti, the games
Yes.
that are coming up. They're all quite kind of interesting. Real Sociedad, what do you feel about that? That one's
Oh,
going to be tricky.
yeah.
But we are
Yeah.
hearing that Imanol is going to rest a few people for the Europa, or the Europa Conference, I forgot, where are they playing. But apparently he's resting a few people. But
Mhm.
Sociedad is never going to be easy for us, is it?
No. No, no, no. That's the team that kind of, I don't want to say scares me the most, but that's the team that I'm most nervous about. They make me nervous because they just seem to know
How
how
we
to push, yeah, how to press us well, how to platform their intensity. There's always intensity from Real Sociedad, and they have been clinical against us as well. They know how to exploit us. So I think in terms of that, they might not seem like the team that's stacked with superstars, and they're really not. But they have the collective quality that matters a lot more in these situations, and they do give their all against Barca as many teams do, and it'll be a tough game. I think Real Madrid have Real Betis, I think, and then
Betis.
Atletico have
Yeah.
is it Espanyol Atletico have. So it'll be an interesting weekend for the top three teams, and we'll see how that goes. But Yeah,
Are you?
not
What are
easy.
you projecting? Are you projecting a win or a draw or a loss?
A win. I'm
A
always
win.
gonna protect a win.
Okay, how
Yeah,
much
a
are we winning
win.
by? How much are we winning by, Dom?
I'm gonna say we'll win 3-1. 3-1.
3-1. That's a good
Mm,
win at Montjuic. So if that happens, happy days. We'll be there live to cover that game. So
we will
guys,
be.
please join immediately after the game. We'll be on this channel and we'll be talking about it. But
Yeah,
yeah, with Imanol and with Real Sociedad, we've never found it easy. And I think that is one guy who knows, who understands how Flick sets the game up, and who brilliant tactician. He coaches his team,
hmm,
drills his team perfectly. Uh, they're tough ones to beat,
they are.
whether home or away. So it's not gonna be an easy game. So if you win 3-1, I'm super happy if that
Oh yeah,
happens. Because I think for a little time now, it will there will be separation. But I think right now, I think for a few weeks we'll see this head to head where we are all like 55 54 55 54 56
hmm,
whatever. These three teams will go at each other, and then I think one or two of them will peel away. I think that's what's going to happen, and then that's the team that's going to win the league.
yeah,
So hopefully we keep the momentum up, because I don't think, Madrid is going to slip with Betis, even though Anthony is in great form. I just don't think that's going to happen. So we possibly need to get that win and keep going
yeah,
in
yeah.
the league. Okay, 5-0. That's amazing.
Wow.
If that happens, we'll be super happy if that 5-0 happens. And we will celebrate it with you. So join us. And if you are right, then yeah, I mean, you predicted it way before anybody did. So Nico Williams is the ideal player to be bought in. Leah is too inconsistent, lazy. Isaac will be too expensive. Isaac will be too expensive. 100. I'm not sure about his 100 million price tag. That's what it is. We watched
Yeah, that's
Isaac when he was in Sociedad. We watched Isaac when he is in Newcastle. We've been watching him for a while. Yes, the market conditions surprise 100%. But is he fundamentally 100 million? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? And Nico Williams is the idol. Maybe he is, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they're going to revisit that. Tom, what's your thought on Nico? Are we going back for him?
I don't think so. I mean, he would still be a great pick. Still think there's a lot of value in Nico Williams. There's a lot of potential in Nico Williams and a lot of ability. I do believe that. I firmly believe he's a great player. That he will be an even greater player in 2 or 3 years' time if he continues developing the same way that he's been going just now. So I think there's an elite player in there, and I love Nico Williams. I really do. Lau is the better player, the higher ceiling, the I would say the more game breaking than Nico Williams is at this moment, at least. Also very expensive, and yes, inconsistent and lazy. That's very true. Again, it's all about platforming those players, and Leao needs to be one of the big guns in the team. Needs to be someone who's a bit catered to, right? Needs to be the coach's pet a little bit as well. So he has to feel that importance, and then he'll be much more proactive, I would say. Isak, we talked about Isak. Yes, expensive, very high quality, but also very expensive. So, and would require a Lewandowski departure most likely. So there's that.
So that's it, guys. We covered quite a lot of ground, almost an hour. We've been at it. Let us know. We are thinking about doing this live consistently rather than record it. So if you feel this is good, we can always come in and just go with all of you, because it's always fun to talk and take your comments in as well, because we learn a lot more from you as well.
Yeah.
So that's fun. So hopefully you enjoyed it. All 700 of you. Thank you for joining. We had no promotion, nothing. We just hopped in like 10 minutes ago. We said let's go live, and that's it.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining. It made us feel good and worthwhile, and hopefully we win against 5-0. Tifilus, we hold you over 5-0, right? So if we win 5-0, we are super happy, and we'll be back, to cover that game live. So please do join us. Until then, this is bye bye from us. Stay safe, take care, and Biscal Barca. Take care, guys.
Yeah.